And today is August 3rd, 2020, and it's 9:30. And this is a committee hearing of the HLW regarding the NMTI. This meeting is to provide updates to the committee members and also will provide opportunities to the members to ask questions at the end of the presentation. Before we start, I would like to introduce the members of this committee. And on my right is Senator Vinny Sablan, who is the vice chair of this committee. And then on my left, in front of me, is Senator Frank Cruz, who is the chairman of the EHCI. And then next to him is Senator Fidel Guerrero. And on my right in front is Senator Victor Oco, the chairman of the Ways and Means. And joining us this morning, it's not a member of this committee, but I invited her because she's the chair of the House Education Committee, is Congresswoman Staffler. Welcome, Chair, to our Senate committee meeting. And at the same time, I would like to ask the CEO and then the chair to introduce the key people from NMTI who are here this morning, and also the chair to introduce the members of this committee. But first, I would like to inform everybody that we are live, and for the viewing public, and good morning to all the public who are viewing this meeting this morning. First, I would like to call this meeting to order here in the Senate chamber. And the introduction of the members is a roll call. And the other member who is not here this morning, who is excused, is Senator Carl King Neighbors. He's excused for today's committee meeting. So I would like now to ask the CEO to introduce her key staff, and also please state your name for the records.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jovina Aktal, Interim CEO for the Northern Marianas Technical Institute. And with me today, this morning, I have my very hardworking team with me who piled up in a van and came up very excited at 9:15 in the morning. So right to my left, we have Mr. Vic Cepeda. He is our honorary staff legacy of NMTI. We have Ms. Charlene Kitano, who is our HR manager, Mr. Ed Taruk, our welding instructor, Mr. Rip Stevenson, who is pretty much acts as a consultant for NMTI on a volunteer basis. Ms. Emily Lisua, she just started on Monday as our admissions assistant. Mr. Dante Yumo, he is our automotive instructor. Mr. Dino Romeler, our support staff. And to my right, we have our beautiful board members. Mr. Romulo Cayetano, he is our electrical instructor. Mr. Mike Vargas, our construction instructor. Natalia Sablan at the back, who is our accountant. And Ms. Mina Benaventi, who is our student support and curriculum coordinator.
Thank you. Interim CEO, is that what your title is now? The interim CEO?
Yes.
Okay, now I would like to ask the chairman of the Board of Trustees to please introduce the members of the board.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mario Valentino. I am the Board of Trustees Chairman. With us this morning, I have Trustee Rick Houts sitting over to our left. Behind me on my right is Trustee Catherine Attal and Trustee Millie Romalman from the Board of Trustees. Trustee Anna Mendiola had a previous commitment with work. She tried to make it, emergency came up. Trustee Irene Hall is actually in Cambodia and unable to get back. So, and then we lost one member, two members, or actually one member, Ray Pangilinan from our Tinian representative. He stepped down for her personal reasons. So we're currently going to be seeking a new trustee for Tinian.
I thank you, Mr. Valentino. We will now proceed down to our agenda. Adoption of the agenda. May I hear a motion from any of the members to adopt this agenda?
So, second.
The motion for the adoption of agenda has been moved and seconded, so the motion carries. Public comment, anyone from in the gallery that would like to make comments on the agenda. Starts, please escort the. And before you make your comments, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hi, yes, my name is Mina Benaventi. I want to take off my mask just for this piece. So I just want to, first of all, thank everyone. Happy day in Tiro. Beautiful and wonderful people on this beautiful rainy Tuesday. My name is Mina Benaventi. I am the Student Service and Curriculum Coordinator at Nmti. I really want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me this morning. I have two things to share with you this morning, so I won't take up too much time, okay? I have been on board with Nmti for about 2 months, and what I can tell you about Nmti is that we are the dream team right now. We communicate, we share ideas, we work well together, we work fast, and we listen. And if we don't listen, we have no problem telling the other person to listen. So we get things done, but the most important part of this is that we have immense diversity. We are diverse in terms of our work experience, our ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and with the diversity that we bring it to be the best of us, and we put our minds to create moving parts to the wonderful machine that we call Nmti. Second, at Nmti, we are blessed to have our team of instructors. So if you look around, right, we have a lot of instructors from Nmti. Our team of instructors have the longest history at Nmti. One of our instructors told us yesterday, the reason why Nmti is so important is because we teach two things. Number one, we teach knowledge, and number two, we teach the skill. Anyone can walk around with knowledge, but no skill. And others can walk around with the wrong knowledge and the right skill, or the right knowledge and the right knowledge, or the right knowledge and the wrong skills. But here, these people you see with us, they put in their expertise and they teach you the right skills and the right knowledge. So as you decide today that Nmti, is part of the government entity, I can assure you that we are very, very essential So that's about it on my part on public comments. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the gallery that would like to make comments on the agenda?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and
State,
members of the
please
committee.
state your name for the record.
My name is Brian A. Torres, a retiree, used to work at NMTI. I was with NMTI, or I served NMTI for 6 years. And at that period of time, they lacked math instructors. So I was hired. NMTI have also a high school and not just trades. Before the pandemic, we have 36 students that we're serving. Most of these students have only 3 classes to complete to receive their NMTI high school diploma. We have graduated students from cohort 1 to cohort 7, and we were entertaining cohort 8 when the pandemic hits. We track our students upon receiving their diploma. Some choose to be placed on a job, which was the duty of Mr. Vic Stebbett. Some chooses to enroll in community college. 4 of our students are presently in community college in Kentucky. Some took and passed ASVAC and joined the military. But the majority of these students chooses to continue at NMTI to complete their respective trades. When we move from trades to technical school at NMTI, trades is being concentrated alone. What I'm trying to say here is that high school has been canceled. And I'm here to represent those 36 high school students. It is also understood that these high school students were to be placed at PSS, but one have to remember that most of our students are 25 years of age or even older. And if we place them at PSS, or PSS will not even admit them because of their policy on age requirement. To me, this is an institutional abandonment of our students. These are students that are just trying to improve their livelihood in our ever challenging community. To partner with PSS will not work. Even if PSS suspend their policy on age requirement, the students will forego courses that are not into their main goal. What I'm trying to say on this matter is that why would a culinary student or even a hotel and restaurant students in the trades area be taking algebra 2? Mathematics is my forte, and to me, there is no need. And I can define 3 areas of mathematics in very simple definition. When students are taking advanced mathematics, this is preparing them into the academic field, which will eventually become engineers, doctors, astronomers, etc. Another area in mathematics is business mathematics, which prepares students in accountancy and entrepreneurship. And the last part of these mathematics areas is one of what I was educated for, industrial mathematics. This prepares students in the mastery of their chosen fields. As a coordinator, math coordinator at PSS for 17 years, I've seen students taking Algebra 2, geometry, discrete geometry, and then they go out to NMC and take a placement test and are still placed in basic math. To give some example of what math is needed on any trades, in the area of carpentry, student needs mastery. And when I mean mastery, you, you can apply it immediately into your trades. They need fraction. They need mastery in the decimals, mastery in measurement, metric, and US customary. Simple plain geometry formula, conversion, ratio, and proportion. Nothing else. They don't need to take a discrete geometry or algebra 2. Electricity among all the trades is supposed to be the hardest area that takes in mathematics. But all the same, except that involves a lot of formulas. Accreditation. I understand that the new CEO is trying to get the institution accredited. And that is to bring the CEO or the owner of Guam Construction Academy to Saipan to train teachers so that they can teach trades. I was one of those certified instructors who took over those crash courses that involves 9 modules to teach one class, and that is core curriculum, nothing else. My area in the core curriculum is to teach mathematics, construction math, and blueprint reading, which is also my field at school. Bert Johnson comes to Saipan regularly to train teachers to take this one course. Just like PSS requiring teachers to pass praxis to be certified. This is certification of teachers. This is not accreditation of an institution. The institutional accreditation is based or is given by the WASP, the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. Another thing that I'd like to touch here is that when we were asked to reapply for a position, which I'm not here to apply anymore, the public law states the transition into the government is to its entirety. We were not terminated, we were furloughed. We never received any letter stating that our contract will not be renewed. Therefore, in reality, we're still employees of Nmti, but some of us decided to stay home. They asked us to reapply. Why am I reapplying for a job that I still hope? Is my question. So, in closing, I would like to see NMTI succeed with or without the former employees. I'm ready to give, as I have given the new CEO, some of the things that she needs to be prepared of. But we need clarification, particularly in our high school students. Allow these students to complete their high school diploma. Our diploma is accepted in any college anywhere in the US. And we have seen a lot of success from our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. Anybody else? Yeah. Please restrict your
Yeah.
comments to at least a maximum of 5 minutes. Thank you.
I'll be briefer than that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maureen Sabangio, and I was also an instructor for the Adult Vocational Trades High School while NMTI was under trades. I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Torres said, is that essentially what we've done is we've abandoned our students. I am still every week getting contact from multiple students asking, Miss, can I get my high school diploma? Miss, what do I need to do to complete this? And it literally breaks my heart not to know the answers. Okay? Again, the plans that have been put forward might look good on paper for affiliating with NMC. Again, our student population is the most underserved and the most in need. They are not comfortable going to NMC. PSS has already failed them. This is often for many of our students, this is the first time they've had success. I've had students that have read a book for the first time, have written a book report for the first time. One of the last papers I had turned into me, a student that has done jail time wrote in his book report that he used to, every night he would get with his posse and smoke marijuana and drink. He started reading The Call of the Wild by Jack London, and he said that night he read it and he decided not to go with his friends, that he was going to stay home and read his book. Now, to me, that is a success beyond measure. And again, it's hurtful to me that we've let these students down by not showing them the respect of giving them information or letting them know what alternate pathways are available to them. Because again, a lot of times the pride that you see in these students, I've literally had girls in the class that sat in the back of the class with the hoodie covering their face the first day that I was in class with them. And by 6 months later, the hood's off, they're talking, they're interacting, they're establishing a peer group with the other people that are in a very common situation with them. So again, I don't want this group of students, it may be a relatively small number, 30 some, but again, it's not just that student, it's their entire family, it's their community, it's the pride of their neighbors that they're accomplishing something. Again, these people are most likely going to stay here and work, contribute taxes, get themselves off of food stamps, not need Medicaid anymore. So again, when we educate them, we're lifting everybody up and letting them achieve a better life. So that's my perspective on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and my name is Vincent Seman Aldan. As Mr. Torres reiterated, I used to be an instructor for NFTI. I used to be the trades coordinator for NFTI. I have nothing against, the way, with who's running IPI and whatnot. I don't, if anything, I am always going to support NMTI regardless if I work with them or not. Right? What I'm concerned about is the way it's, the planning. So we're planning on opening, a branch in Rhoda and Tinian. That is what I'm against, because running a technical school, okay, is very costly. I mean, if Saipan alone, the branch here alone is struggling to have instructors, how are you going to provide instructors for Tinian and Rhoda? So if we have a welding instructor here, for example,
Do we have another welding instructor for Tinian or Rhoda? So why do we even entertain that? Why not just build a dormitory here and bring the students here? Just imagine the logistics that goes into building a trade school or running a trade school. Okay, just for carpentry alone, the prices of all of those materials to do a carpentry program has skyrocketed worldwide. And then if the materials come into Saipan, and then we have to ship it to Rhoda Tinian just to keep the school going. Okay, so a lot of those things doesn't make any sense on why would you want to open a branch where the population is not even going to be there, where it's more beneficial to just open up a dormitory here, and have the students go here, because this is where the heart and the everything is. This is where all the materials that they need, and this is where all the staff is at. It is very costly to open up another branch. All right. And the other thing that I'm concerned about is the timing of the students. So for most of NMTI courses, there are four levels: level 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I was talking to one of the PSS reps, and we were thinking that, okay, if the student starts their trades program in the 9th grade and they complete a level at NMTI in the 9th grade, that's already one level down. By the time they graduate high school, they have completed all those levels, which means that not only do they walk out with their high school diploma, but also their license to be able to work. And during those time frames that the students are going to school, during the summertime, they can have a job. Because for every level, it constitutes, you could have an entry-level job. So for every level that you complete, you can already get yourself a job. So you don't have to worry about, waiting for mom and dad or whatnot to pay for your living expenses, where you could contribute. And you let those students learn that, hey, you got this skill, it's marketable, go out and get a job, or if anything, start a business. And a perfect example of that would be, let's say, for example, HVAC. One of the basic things that you do for HVAC is just cleaning the system, doing basic maintenance. And you could do that, you could learn all of that in your first level. So a student could go out on a Saturday and clean one AC unit for $60 an hour. And he could start earning that money, or $60 per unit, and he could earn that money during the weekend, at a grade level of 9th grade. So once he completes that, then he can do that. So there's a lot of things that we can do to help the students out, but we have to understand the timing and the budget cost that is going to run the school, and at the same time to try to make sure that our student is successful. So again, opening a branch in Tinian and Rhoda is not sustainable. I can guarantee you that. What happened to the branch that we had in Rhoda? It didn't work out, right? So imagine we open up 2 branches and the needs are not there. Bring them here, let them come here and go to school here, and then we'll take care of everything else. The logistics just doesn't make any sense. And at the same time, the other point again is that the timing, level 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's your 9, 10, 11, and 12th grade. Like I said, by the time they graduate high school, they should be, almost at that point where they become experts, because it doesn't take, in order for you to master a trade, it takes you like 8 to 10 years, depending on what that trade is. But as long as we can get those students to, follow those levels, by the time they graduate, they should be able to be independent. They could become, employees, or they could become an employer or start their own business. So again, it's just the thing that I'm just concerned about is just the logistics and the cost of opening up another branch. So like I said, I don't have anything against NMTI. What I mean? I just want what's best for the community. That's it. So I don't care if I'm fired or whatever, but no matter what, okay, Even though I don't teach at NMTI, I still go out there and serve the public how? By actually teaching, because I am an authorized instructor, regardless of NMTI or not. So I still go out there and I still provide services to the people. With all of these construction projects that are going on now, you know, a lot of these construction companies are asking me to help them certify their people in OSHA. So I go out there and I help them. If the students can afford it, then they'll pay. If they cannot afford it, I give it for free. You know, that's the dedication that I have in our community. I don't care where I work or if I work, just as long as I give something back. Because I don't need NMTI, you know, to go out there and pass my knowledge, you know, to the community. Because I know for one that I'm not going to be around forever. So instead of taking all of that knowledge with me to the grave, why not give it out and share it? But at the same time, my only problem is the budget cost to run branches. It's not sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anyone else? Please state your name for the record.
My name is Agnes McPeters, former CEO of Northern Mariana Straits Institute. I did prepare for my written statement, and I must apologize that my computer cannot print it. So I want to let you know that when I go back home, I'll see if I could get that printed and send it to you. But one thing I would like to say here is that I want to thank you for holding this hearing or meeting, because it is very important that everyone understands the role of NMTI and what the federal money that is coming here, the purpose of that federal money. What I heard, and this is just again hearing, is that the money for next fiscal year is being considered to be distributed, and I was appalled that NMTI is not getting what they actually need to educate students in the trades. We have to educate also the decision makers that teaching and also running a trade school is very different from running the college. As you all know, I've been a director and I've been superintendent of schools, and I know how it's run. I've been a president of NMC, I know how it's run. I run that NMTI for 5 years. I did not apply, I was asked, and in every one of the jobs that I have taken, I had never applied, but I was asked to do it. And I did it because that is my mission in this life, to develop our human resources to the maximum. There are issues or there are things that NMTI has done, the trades have done. And I would really like the Board of Trustees to look at it and not trash it. Because I have been told that people who applied were told that, well, we don't have the curriculum, we don't have this, because we are the new NMTI, not the old NMTI. When I read the legislation that was passed by this body and also passed by the House and signed by the governor, it encourages us, all of us educators, to work together and not to duplicate efforts. And it looks like we still do not understand the role of the college, the role of NMTI, and the role of the public school systems. It shouldn't be divided, we should be working together. I feel bad when I heard that the students, the high school students, the adult students are not going to be using NMTI anymore. Because they are the students that really needed NMTI. They are the students. I am glad that some of the teachers taught the high school because the private sector wanted to hire students with high school diploma. And with the plan that NMTI traits have prepared, it is a comprehensive plan, but I wonder whether the board of the trustee review that and the new administrators of these schools review also our memorandum of agreement between Northern Marianas, between Northern Marianas College, between between the public school system, and also between all the businesses here as to how we could work together. Because those are good documentation, they're not trash. And I am asking this body and also the faculty, not the faculty, some of them are still here, and I'm so glad that they hired some of them. But we still have other people out there that are pretty good that were not hired. And I will send you my comment because I also come up with recommendations in terms of looking at the law and strengthening it and clarifying some of it, because I think the Board of Trustees misunderstood the meaning of some sections. As I understand, also the transition report was not completed and was submitted. And there's a section there that was not even implemented, which was the most important section of the transition. It was not done, but the report was submitted. And all that is in my report to you. I thank you for this.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, last chance, and then I will close public comment. Please state your name for the record.
Alpha Tiro, si John Oliver Bolis Pangilinan de los Reyes Gonzalez zo. Za no wahu I otimu zan no humuzong na past chairman of the board for 7 of 8 years, the NMTI, the Papai Trades Institute. Si Zeus Mausi sa pinagahayos din na no tinapos para ta panatingan data na siguro na ta ataha dan ta adahi ng tapulan za umas nipgut ang tao mo na isot ta Technical Institute. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Chairman Kiruguas and his honorable esteemed senators, colleagues here, for this opportunity. I am the immediate past president or chairman of the board for 7 or 8 years. And our current interim CEO will vouch that I have been to her office, not once, not twice, but a few times. We've met out in the community, and I've pitched in my unconditional support and blessings that we must continue ang agpipit mo na di buenamente seguidos and obligado, so that we can then build upon the successes and the plant and the diamonds under our feet envisioned by Idifunto as Tony Pellegrino. It's never been about me or anyone prior members of the board. It's never been about Tony or the CEO or anybody. It's always about itaw-tawta, itanokta, itapinitizi, zanta atituzi, paifamagunta. I am a son of a master mason, carpenter, construction, who immigrated to the Commonwealth almost 50 years ago. And I know how it is to be a a son of a builder, a technically adept individual. And so it is from that that I take heed that we must not do anything other than to hold each other's hands and build, build, build. Failure is not an option. It never was an option. And it pains me when personalities and silo syndrome comes in the way. Senators, we must protect the Tadahi Nmti. Monies should be allocated. I saw the proposed 103 million budget. It's only $500,000 out of $2.4 million. We must dedicate the bulk of that money to Technical Institute. We must hire the NCER people. It takes 5 times the cost of technical training versus college education. They can't even qualify for FAFSA, for federal aids and whatnot. So we need to help. And I asked trustees and also Chairman Mario, my former colleague of the Trades Board, and our interim CEO, put things aside. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Extract those that have worked and will continue to work, and let's not waste any more second or minute. It's been 6-7 months since we handed over the Technical Institute pursuant to Public Law 20-92, or is it 84? And we still haven't had students or classes yet. Tristizo, pinitizo, because our kids are hungry for technical knowledge. Now, pega yung banda, let's run with it, and let's really build, truly, literally build Itanota and empower and educate Ifamagunta so that they can anticipate and take over jobs with a bubble anticipated economy. Failure is not an option. Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who would like to make comments on the agenda for today's meeting? Okay, since no one else will be making further comments on the agenda, I would like now to proceed to old business. And since there's none, we'll go down to new business. But before we go into the new business, I would like to introduce the legal counsel for this committee. In front of me is Anthony Villagomez. And then on the far left, in front of me is Jolene Tagliabue, who is the assistant to Anthony to this committee. Now let's proceed down to item 6A, and I will give the floor to the interim CEO.
All right, thank you guys for the opportunity to, come up and present on behalf of NMTI. I want to thank all the former trades, the board chairman, and all the former trade staff, former CEO Agnes McPeters for making their way up and, providing public comment. I truly appreciate their perspective on how things have been moving along with NMTI. Wendell, next slide. So I just prepared a very simple presentation so that we're able to just move along in the conversation. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me as I just flow through this. So this is our NMTI team. We have been so busy that we've never really took a group photo. So this is the best group photo we could come up with. On the next slide. And that's us just working together to put a planter out in the front. It took the entire team to move that. Next slide, please. So today, we have 16 faculty and staff on board. Our instructors, as introduced earlier, we have 6 of them. I didn't mention Mr. or Chef Benjamin Babata. He's not present today. We have our student support services wing, the administrative personnel, and facilities. We still have at least 4 pending staff. Next slide, please. So salaries that are covered under general funds is myself, the administrative officer, the accountant, budget analyst, and human resource manager. Pending hires under the general fund would be our network administrator, who we need really badly, a grant specialist, and a marketing person. Salaries that are covered under CW funds are our student services curriculum coordinator, admission specialist, their administrative assistant, the facilities manager, 1 support staff, and the 6 instructors. Our pending hire for that category is 1 more support staff to come on board. The breakdown of our funding request for fiscal year 2022 is in yellow, everything that has been submitted, and in blue, things that are potential. So for the federal accounts, we have fiscal year 2022 Commonwealth Worker Funds. We requested a total of 1.1 million. For the EDA, there's that 10.3 million that was transitioned over. I was able to submit a grant application for the Education Stabilization Fund, Part 2, for 2.3 million that will cover a lot of student learning platforms and network infrastructure. I was also able to submit an ARPA proposal for at least 4.1 million to address how we can build capacity in Rhode Island. I'll go into detail when I get to that. And for the local side of things, we were able to submit a request from the general funds for fiscal year 2022 at up to 1.7 mil. We were not able to receive fiscal year 2021. So that's something that we would also, we're trying to discuss with Representative Staffler, and I've been reaching out to a lot of the House and Senate members to help us with the remainder of fiscal year 2021. Wendell, can you go back, please? So other potential sources that we're looking into is Compact Impact that can award us at least 200,000. However, with that, we would need to gather appropriate data on any FSM enrollee from 2020. Because we lack the proper database to collect that, we would have to do everything manually, and that would take us a while as we're setting up for the fall opening of the school. Another potential source of income would be the Saipan and Northern Islands Legislative Delegation. We don't know how much we were able to receive from that, and we're going to look into finding more details. Sorry, when I'm not done yet. So at the very bottom, the governor has recently requested for NMTI's immediate needs, and we requested for at least 263,000, and it's mostly for physical structural renovations at NMTI, as all our roofs are leaking, and being that it's rainy season, it has been very easy to identify all those leaks lately. And also potential flood mitigation, as our parking lot can get really flooded during rainy season. And also a proposed carpentry workshop that's located outside for easier access to for students, and to be able the ability to clean up in an efficient way. And we were also able to turn in a proposal for the remaining funds that we would need to cover staff that are currently on board and being funded under general funds. Next slide, please. So with our procurement policies, we have taken 3 steps. The first thing we did was review the old trades policy. Our findings were that it lacked pertinent information and adhering to federal and local procurement.
Can I interrupt for?
Sure.
Can we follow the agenda so we can have a smooth
Okay, sure.
discussion?
Yes.
And we will get to the policies later on.
Sure.
So I'm going to ask the chairman to provide us information on the transition report, please.
Anything specific you'd like to know?
Well, we are wondering about the transition report. So can you tell us the history?
Yes.
Can you tell us
Absolutely.
whether it's completed or missing, and when was it actually submitted?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Distinguished members. So just some, I guess we'll just back up some brief history. You might want to take this off. So basic history, the transition committee was meeting regarding the transition. They broke off into subcommittees. And back in early or late October, early November, I asked everyone, just we're checking on progress, that, hey, look at, the expectation is I want to make sure we finish this by Christmas. Because a lot of times these things drag out, and I know everybody has other lives as volunteers. We're, trying to help get this transition done. What was submitted to me in early January, I said I wanted to submit I guess the draft update. The governor was asking me for an update where we were on this transition. So I asked everyone to please submit what they had. There was some frustration among the group because a lot of people weren't complete. Some did submit, and what was submitted by the committee was incomplete. I identified a lot of things that were incomplete, including a financial statement. The Board of Trades, which I was a member of, obviously, we went into, I believe it was January, early January, we were going to, they were waiting on the accountant to provide us with the, I guess, the audit that they were doing. And for whatever reason, that wasn't part of any of the financial equation. That was supposed to be in the financial report, which was not there yet. So I kept asking, hey, can we get this? We postponed a meeting of the trades. We adjourned saying, okay, we'll have this all included in this transition report from the trades. And then I wanted to submit it in the complete packet. That didn't happen, kept waiting. I said, according to the law, and I sent an LSR because there was some discussion on what the completion of the date was. Some interpretation was communicated to the group, and it was said that you said that, that the transition isn't complete until we submit everything. And then I went and got an LSR from the AG's office, and they said that's not true. And I circulated that LSR, legal service request, from the AG's office, said whichever is first, the 180 days transmission is done. In per Public Law 2092, it said at the completion of the 180 days, you either submit the report, which the transition will be complete. If the 180 days comes and that transition report is incomplete, which it was incomplete, it was still incumbent upon me, and I shared with the group, I was told don't submit it. And I felt that would have been a reflection on me and the team, because so many people did do hard work on what we had. So I said, why don't I submit, which I did. I submitted with the caveat, this is incomplete. Per Public Law 2092, it would go after that 180 days, then it would be given to the Board of Trustees, which I humbly requested. I said, please allow that to continue in the process. So I know there was some people up in arms about, well, it was incomplete. Unfortunately, the date, the 180 days expired. There was no more time, and that per Public Law 2092, And according to the AG's office, that was the termination of the transition. So following the law, that's why I submitted on the requested date, and I issued one to the governor, to the speaker president, and I think it's Congressman Bill Gomez. So all three, that was the required elements to give to all three of those people. So I did that, and I met with the governor's office. I met with Senator Hofstadter. Personally said, hey, this is incomplete. We're still missing some elements, but according to public law, it says, please allow the trustees to continue. So that's kind of what we did to follow the law. That was just under the guidance of the LSR. Does that answer it? Or close? Or?
I would like to clarify that the reasons why that 180 days is in the law, because that's the law. Okay? It should be followed. And that's 6 months.
Yes.
I will get to some questions when we get to the bottom. And I'm going to ask some questions on the transition.
Okay.
So I will reserve my questions so that we can move forward.
Very good.
And since there is a kind of a question on the transition part of the law, I would like to ask our legal counsel to clarify for all of us what the law is saying on the transition section. Counsel?
Okay, Chair, regarding the 180 days, Public Law 20-92, Section 3 of the public law discusses the transition provisions. And regarding the deadline, subsection G, termination of Committee on Transition, it says, the Committee on Transition shall terminate and cease to exist upon the submission of the transition report to the governor and presiding officers of the legislature, but not later than 180 days after the organization of the Transition Committee. Upon the termination of the Committee on Transition, the NMTI Board of Trustees shall have full power, full control, and supervision of the NMTI pursuant to the provisions of this act. So as far as the deadline or the termination date, it was 180 days after the organization of the transition Committee on Transition. So whatever that day was when the governor organized the transition committee, 180 days after that is when the transition should have terminated and the report should have been completed.
Thank you, Counsel. Later on, when the question comes up for the transition report, I would like to know from the chairman at the end, when was the transition committee appointed by the governor? But we will wait until we come to the question and answer. Okay, I would like to ask the chairman and the interim CEO, is there anything in public law training that's 92 that you need explanation at this time from the legal counsel? Is there anything there that is not clear, that you're wondering what to do in any of the provisions? I'm pretty sure that all of you have read that, and all the members that came before the Senate for hearing, we ask you to familiarize yourself with public law 20-92 because that will be your guidance henceforward. So any particular section there that you're not so sure? So that the legal counsel can take a look at and provide us explanations for clarity?
No, Chairman, it's clear.
Okay, thank you very much.
On my end, there were comments that were solicited by Senator Hopuk and Senator Carl Neighbors, so I just asked if they could clarify. I did send in our comments on behalf of the board, and they were able to review it, and we all agree that there needs to be clarification when it comes to the nomination committee. And I believe that's it. But I can provide copies of those via email
Okay, thank you
if you
very
guys would
much.
like to see that.
Thank you very much.
Chairman?
Go ahead.
One of the clarifications we did get, and I did hear this, but I circulated it, was when we did an LSR, because there was some question regarding personnel. Big capital P, small p, an LSR was sent from the transition committee to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General's office came back, and I don't have it with me in the stack, but I can get it to you all. But it says, do the trades personnel, do they automatically transfer? And the Attorney General said, no, they do not. They remain members of the 501c3 Trades Institute, and they still are. So, I heard Mr. Torres say that, he was part of that thing and he didn't get transferred over. I know the CEO, they did. Part of that law and part of the interpretational law was, sure, because it was a 501c3, it's a separate entity. Now it's a now it's the private, I guess, public institution. There's a process you have to go through. So it wasn't automatic, seamless transfer. As I know there was some opinions and people were sharing what they felt it should be and interpretations of what the law said. That's why we sought out the AG's opinion. So everybody was uniform with it. And that was circulated to everybody in the transition committee and given to Madam CEO McPeters. So everybody knew that wasn't the case. So it's confusing when I keep hearing that everybody's unaware of that. I'm thinking, well, it was clear that no, they don't automatically transfer. A lot of them, and we actually met, myself, Trustee Anna Atal, and Trustee Couts. There was just some history. There was some confusion during that transition period where somebody had posted online that NMTI closed. And that was shocking to me because we have nothing to do with it yet. So we assembled, we met with the teachers, myself, Trustee Atal, Trustee Couts. We met with Maureen here and Trustee Torres. And he mentioned in his statement that they had 3 classes to finish. And when we assured them, we said, we took down how long is your class is going to go. We guaranteed they would finish. We said, no problem. So that's what we did. Trustee Couch said the trade still had the money. Those classes were going to continue. And I know we took down all the timelines. We said everything's going to extend. Nobody is going to be shut out. So when I hear that, that's just false information. Nobody was shut out. They were allowed to continue to teach to finish this, contrary to what the law said. The law drew a fine line in the sand, says no encumbrances, cannot impose any financial burden, nothing. But we felt it was in the best interest of the students to continue. That was a little bit of a gray area. So they did continue. So when it comes before this committee saying that they were not allowed to continue with 3 classes left, that's absolutely not true. Because we met with all of them. Trustee Atalis here too. She took copious notes of when each class was done. And all these instructors were told, this is when we will continue until it's completed. So that's what happened.
Thank you, Chairman. We might probably discuss or have questions at the
Okay.
end on that regard. So now, any more clarifications on the law? Okay, so we'll proceed and we'll go down to policies. Interim CEO, would you like to speak?
All right, so with procurement policies, we were able to take 3 steps. We assessed the old trades policy, found out that it lacked pertinent information and adhering to federal and local procurement guidelines. Next step that was taken was our review for CNMI, federal, and other autonomous agencies' procurement policies. Our findings were, well, not necessarily findings, but we identified information that needed to be updated so that we could adhere to CNMI and federal procurement policies or regulations, even if we were an autonomous agency. Right now, we are finalizing that draft policy for the board's review. And we believe that the policy integrates everything that NMTI needs to be in line with the CNMI and federal procurement regulations. Any questions?
We'll have the questions at the end. Go ahead and proceed.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So currently, these are our curriculum and our courses. We have NCCER programs, which is the National Construction Center for Education and Research programs. We have CORE, which teaches the basic safety and just basic construction and related programs. That's a 9-module course. We have the construction program, welding. Sorry, I'm moving too fast. So in the construction program, it covers carpentry, cabinet making, plumbing, masonry, etc. Welding, HVAC, electrical, electronic system technician, power generation, and we're hoping to expand those programs using the same curriculum. We have, under the American Hotel and Lodging Education Institute, hotel and restaurant operations. Other specialized courses, which are very high ticket courses. We have culinary arts and automotive, both mechanical and electrical. And then potential programs to be established are bookkeeping from the National Bookkeeping Association, computer aided design, as we are moving into we're in the 21st century and it's just easier to design that way. Maritime welding, which is also a part of the NCCER curriculum, however, has not been visited due to the lack of instructors. But we just recently got a site visit from Dr. Bert Johnston, who is the executive director of the Trades Academy in Guam. And he mentioned that if you have a practitioner that can come in and take a 3-day course certification to become an instructor, that person can do part-time instruction and be teaching all of these other classes, such as maritime welding and construction project management. So it's a very sustainable thing to do. The contracts are based on the amount of time that is needed to complete these modules, and they can do it outside of their day job. Okay. Next slide, please. Partnerships. Right now, we are working with NMC very closely for the State Apprenticeship Expansion Grant. Aside from that, there are multiple projects that we're doing on the side. We are trying to leverage our resources so that we're able to open up NMTI's presence at Rhoda and Tinian, utilizing their unused spaces at their campus so that we're able to turn them into workshops/classrooms and establish our presence out in Tinian and Rhoda. Now, to address Mr. Aldon's public comment is just to provide clarification. I believe that if we leverage our resources and create system alignment, that we'd be able to sustain the projects or the operations in Rhoda and Tinian by simply identifying already skilled practitioners in the field so that they can come in, get on accelerator programs, get their certification to become instructors, return back to their islands and become the instructors so that we're building capacity at their islands and we're not just wasting money sending our instructors back and forth because that also leads to burnout. But there are so many other ways to solve the issue. And with the build up at in Tinian, the military build up in Tinian, they're totally gonna make use of those already skilled citizens or residents of Tinian and Rona. Another partnership that we've been developing is with the Child Care Development Fund. Now these families, they are typically eligible for childcare, and one of the requirements is so that they get a job or they're attending education. With all of that, activities will be planned out with our student services coordinator. And another thing that they wanted to throw in is that they can provide night care for families whose children are under the ages of 12. So while their parents go to school, there's an available babysitter. With the nutrition assistance program, I was able to meet with Mr. Walter Macaranas. We have brainstormed different ways of filling the gaps that are at getting in the way of his outcomes for his food stamp program. So one of his requirements is to get a job. However, if he has a bunch of participants or recipients that do not have a high school diploma, it is even more difficult for him to fulfill that need. And so in working with the Department of Labor and WIOA, we're able to, NMTI and NMC are able to assist these recipients with getting these needed certifications or a high school diploma to attain a job. With the Department of Corrections, we are partnering so that we can certify skilled inmates, detainees, and that way they can become the instructors within the system that they are serving. In Guam, Dr. Bert Johnston did mention that he has had much success stories with a lot of the detainees. He turned at least 6 of them into instructors, and the one curriculum that's taught in the jail system is the core curriculum. As soon as these detainees get released, they enter into the trades academy and they start taking advanced level courses. So it's another way for them to keep busy and to build on their skills as part of their re-entry program. With the public school system, there are so many opportunities to explore. We are working on career pathways. We're working on just the different avenues of how do we categorize students who want to go within the academic level, or do they want to take a more trades and technical route. So I've been working closely with Dr. Taylor, Commissioner Ada, and a lot of the stakeholders and other relevant staff of PSS to make this a possibility. Within the Department of Labor, I have been working closely with Ms. Frances Torres under the WIOA department and Ms. Lonnie Cruz from the Apprenticeship State Expansion Program to help us try to put all of these little puzzle pieces so that it becomes a well-oiled machine. Miss Agnes, she mentioned like that DAOC is going to be moving out of NMC. The reason for that is because we have so many leaks and we're not up to par with PSS's standards for students to be occupying our space. I was able to speak with Commissioner Ada this morning, and that's one of the top reasons that DOUT will be relocating to Kobler. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there before I forget. Island Training Solutions, this is with Mr. Jim Aronofsky. So back in the day, I guess with PSS, it was a bid that went out that whoever won the bid would be teaching the hotel and restaurant operations. However, in partnership with Mr. Aronofsky, I think that we would be able to accomplish so much more because his business is the certified licensure here in the CNMI and in the region. So with him focusing on hotel and restaurant operations, but going through NMTI, it would give us the opportunity to enhance other trades areas rather than having to handle all of these other things. Another partnership that we're really looking forward to is working with Executive Director Yvette Sablon on the substance abuse and addiction rehabilitation program. These participants are also, they're similar in that they are true skilled tradespeople, and we can be able to certify them so that they're able to go into their rehabilitation center and help teach all the other participants that come through their doors. And our main goal here is to establish an MTI presence in Rhode Antinian. And in that, I have been able to meet with Mayor Ephraim Atelig, and he's very supportive of that. I have yet to go to Tinian, but I'm hoping to do that soon. I have been able to work closely with NMC, PSS, and the Department of Commerce, or the resident directors of Commerce and Department of Labor. So there are a lot of moving pieces, but I think if everybody just holds up their end of the bargain, things can start to happen. Next slide, please. So this is our fall 2021 outlook. We have pre-pandemic students and they were followed up on. So there was a total of 43 students that were taking the following courses: welding, core, electrical, automotive, and culinary. Our student services personnel were reached out to the 43 students. Out of the 43, number on file that was not in service were 8, and the 2 of them didn't have a contact source. So of the 43, only 15 has mentioned that they will be continuing with us to complete these courses at no cost. Next slide, please. So our goal for fall is 120 students. So far, we've reached a goal of 74%, with at least 89 students applying for NMTI trades courses. Next slide, please. So here's just simple data that shows what these 89 students that applied, what their first choice of classes are. So electrical, there are about 16 people who applied for that. Carpentry at 5. Construction tech, I think there's about 1 or 2. Welding at about 8. You have AutoCAD, power generation, electronic systems, which are at lower numbers. Automotive at about 11 or 12. Hotel and restaurant operations at about 7 who are interested. Culinary, very similar to electrical, about 16, and HVAC at about 4 people. That's the first choice that was indicated on student applications. Next slide, please. For the second choice, you have plumbing, construction technology, and welding. all at least 3 people who are interested, electrical at 5 and 1 for carpentry, AutoCAD power generation at 2, electronic systems at 1, automotive skyrockets to like 11 or 12, hotel and restaurant operations at about 8 people, and culinary at 6. If you guys would like, we can share the slides with you for your reference. Next slide, please. That it? Okay. So I guess I'm done. Do you guys have any questions?
We'll have the questions at the end.
Okay.
Can we, can you, did you touch can you go down to facility and let us know the status of your grant from EDA? You mentioned that earlier. And then proceed, you mentioned briefly about the lower base facility, so can you go first and let us know the status of the grant, the EDA grant?
So with the EDA grant, we were able to complete our RFP draft, which was reviewed by the board and by our federal partners. We actually came into a halt last week because we had a proposal from the governor to switch out to a bigger property. However, in switching out to a bigger property, it would put us in jeopardy of losing the 10.3 million. And so together with the board, we are going to be drafting a letter to decline the property that was proposed for Nmti ICUs. Now, the difference between the 2 properties is the one that's already established at Kobler with all the paperwork in line is at 15,000 square meters versus the one that was proposed to be issued to NMTI was at 40,000 square meters. Granted, the land is bigger and we can do more. However, with with accepting that offer, we would be jeopardizing the money that's already been allocated for the Coblerville property. So we're gonna be coming together and writing a letter to the governor. As for the lower base facility, there's a lot of work to be done. Our roofs are leaking. We are infested with termites and ants, and that's something that we need to address right away. The carpentry workshop is actually located within the warehouse at the very front of the warehouse, and it's not feasible in that noise is very apparent in a woodworking workshop, and we would need to relocate the workshop to outside of the facility. So that was included in our immediate needs for our immediate needs proposal. I don't know, there's a lot. We've been working on a lot of facelift projects, but that's really just to promote a positive work environment and all of that. But the underlying issues is that our roofs are really bad. They need to be replaced. And there are just so many issues with the termites and the rats and the ants, and those are things that we would need to address like ASAP.
Can you go down and address S6 on the FY21 and the FY22 budget? You mentioned briefly about both fiscal years, and can you expound more on the FY 2021?
Sure.
You mentioned earlier that some of you are being paid out of the general fund for FY 21.
Yes.
Elaborate more on that.
So for FY 2021, the transition was able to get from the trades board at least 13,000. So that was put into our general funds. The governor was able to provide us with 100,000 from his discretionary funds. And that's what we've been using to pay and do certain projects around the area, around the facility. In April, we received the fourth quarter of the fiscal year 2020 CW funds that wasn't awarded. And we were able to use that to get our instructional and student support services staff on board. So for fiscal year 2021, we are proposing an additional 165,000 for the remaining staff that we need to hire on the administrative part, and to ensure that we don't go with a pay less payday. Granted, the fiscal year is almost over, but we're still gonna need the money. For fiscal year 2022, we were able to submit a total of 1.1 million to CW funds, a budget proposal or an expenditure plan. And for general funds, 1.7. Now, in those proposals, they were somewhat similar, but the reason for that is I am trying to transition all student services and instructional staff out of CW funds into the general funds as part of the salaries, so that we're able to utilize CW money for all instructional and curriculum building needs. There's a lot of infrastructural needs that we need, including network. And it's just, I guess, the smartest way to go about utilizing the federal dollars for building infrastructure, and using general funds to focus on salaries and wages.
Can you clarify, because you mentioned earlier, I said for the 8.21, our general fund, do you mean NMTI's general fund? Or are you talking about the government's general fund?
NMTI's general fund.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
That's pretty much it, but do you have any questions on our budget?
Before we proceed, I would like to recognize the presence of our Senate President, Senator Chutak Snyder.
Good morning.
Here in the Senate, the President is not a member of the committee, but he is entitled to sit in any committee meeting. So, welcome, President. Now, we'll open the floor for questions. And I will start with Senator Edith Longer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, interim CEO, and also your board of directors for their presence, and everybody else in the public gallery. I do appreciate your presence this morning, but a lot of things that are said this morning caught my attention. I'm going to go down the list, and if you could provide some answers, please do so. If you don't, state so, and perhaps maybe you could provide the committee later on your responses. But this is quite important to me, because workforce development is not a strange discussion or initiative. And I've, done a lot also running the federally funded program under WIA, now currently WIOA, which I appreciate you mentioning about partnering up. But I do have some specific questions for you, interim CEO, so that you could also perhaps maybe explore more opportunity to solidify and get your relationship much more stronger with respect to your local state partnerships, because they are also federally funded. Okay. For the Mr. Mario Valentino, you mentioned earlier that you had transmitted the incomplete transition report, and we had some clarification on the 180 days. My question to you is a legal question with respect to the former NMTI, the Trades Institute being a 501c entity. Was it formally dissolved? Was it formally dissolved as a 501c? And the reason I asked the question because the law specifically asks for specific reports with respect to the transition of the institution, and a lot of them pertains to financials, procurement properties, things like that. So my initial question is, was the former NMTI formally dissolved?
I don't believe the trades was formally dissolved.
Okay, and that's the reason why I asked that question, because a lot of the possessions were owned by the 501c entity, NMTI, which is a Trades Institute. The law changed its name to the Technical Institute. And you had also mentioned about, carrying over, for example, personnel and how you vetted out the legal opinion, and that the answer was no, that those individuals or personnel, capital P, small letter P, were still under the Trades Institute. And that's what prompted me to ask the question, because as we address that issue today, legally, do you possess rights to the assets of the Trades Institute that had those assets under their name as a 501c? And that's the reason why I want that legally answered. And if you don't have that today, please provide it to the committee later on. Again, falling right into the conversation of submitting an incomplete transition report, I'd like to know, and I'm sure all the committee also, what are the transition reports that remains outstanding and have yet to be submitted to have it, classified as a complete transition report?
Good question.
And on page 17 of the law, it talks about an inventory and accounting of all properties, financial audit of the Northern Marianas Trade Institute. Again, it was carrying the name of the 501c initially, okay? So obviously the possessions of the Trades Institute is still falling in that possession under that legal name, the Trades Institute. Plans to transition the management of the building and facilities, personnel, and records over to NMTI. Fiscal 2019 NMTI annual budget, including all revenues and expenditures. Those are very detailed reports that this transition report is required to submit before transferring over anything and everything to the Trades Northern Marianas Technical Institute in its current legal name, and any other relevant information pertaining to the transition. That's all in the law. And if you don't have those answers today, you can provide the committee later on. Earlier also, Madam Interim CEO, you had mentioned that you don't have a fiscal year 21 budget, that the governor transferred to you $100,000 under his discretion account. So that's where you all are being paid from. May I ask, how many pay periods is your existing institution behind on payment of payrolls?
We're currently not behind on any payments. When I first got incepted, it was 2.5 months before I received the paycheck. So the issue was when I first started March 30th.
Okay, so you're referring to just yourself.
Yeah, no, and
What about the rest
No,
of
we're all
the
covered.
organization?
We're all covered until I think this is the last pay period that we're able to cover.
Which is last Friday.
Yeah.
Under the law, when people are working, being a former Secretary of Labor, it is a violation of law that when people are working and they're not being paid their salaries or wages, it's illegal. It's against the law. So I will urge you to bring that to the attention of the administration and work out your mathematics all the way to the end of September, the end of the fiscal year, September 30, how many more pay periods that you need to cover. You cannot continue to have people working under your wings and you can't produce a payroll every 2 weeks. You will be in violation of the law yourself. You could be legally sued.
I know,
Okay?
I
So I
understand.
want to protect you. I want you to take it to the next level and bring it to the attention of the administration that you need this money to cover for the next coming payrolls up to September 30 and a fiscal year, okay? That's for your protection and for everybody else, all right?
We've already submitted, a proposal for the remaining of fiscal year 2021. Our meeting is set for Wednesday.
2021 is ending September 30,
I know.
and then that's the reason why the urgency of the conversation of having the money in the bank for you to issue out those checks. Now, I don't know how they're issuing out the checks, whether they're issuing out US CMI Treasury checks, maybe, regardless, or you need that money into your business unit. They call it a journal transfer. It's an internal transfer electronically on the accounting system of the government, okay? So they could move that money from somebody else's account, whether it's the governor's special account or somebody's money, eventually it's gonna be taken away in order for you all to be paid. That's my concern today as we speak. Everything else we can address. But my concern is that you don't fall into the violation of law when you're making people work in your institution and you can't produce a paycheck in the coming payroll. That would be illegal and you can get in trouble for that. So I am very concerned about that. So please, yeah. So just go ask for the money all the way to the end of September, okay? Take care of yourself and take care of the people that is working under you. I want to finish up on all my questions. Grant specialists, I noticed on your PowerPoint that you don't have a grant specialist, though you have a $10.3 million money from EDA. Who's managing that grant right now within your house?
Myself. No, we did have a grant specialist on it.
You do have a grant specialist?
Yeah.
Okay. So when is the expiration of that grant?
In 5 years.
In 5 years?
I need to.
From what date?
What date?
Right. When was the grant approved? If you're talking 5 years forward, was it approved yesterday? Was it approved last year?
No, it was approved last year. I don't know what month, but I know it's for a period of 5 years.
All right. So you're talking about 2025 expiration date,
Yes.
fully expended, correct?
Yes.
To date, what is your expenditure ratio of your grant?
Nothing yet.
Nothing.
No. We're still at the RFP draft phase.
Within your grant, are you allowed to take down 10% administrative costs?
Yes.
So no expenditure ratio?
There's at least 400,000 that is allocated for administrative costs.
I understand. But you said you have not expended nothing.
No.
Why not? But you have a $400,000 expenditure ratio.
So
Allowable, right? For your $10.3 million, so that's money separate to run your administration of the program. And while you're doing all your RFP, you're vetting it out. You must be paying some kind of vendor to do your RFP, correct? Some professional work.
yes.
Somebody's doing something.
Our consultant is actually paid under the Office of Planning and Development. He's doing at least 5 other different EDA grants, consulting for that.
Okay, so let me just repeat my question again. You are allowed to take down for administrative expense from the 10.3, correct?
Yes.
And that you have taken down $400,000, correct? From
Yes.
the 10.3. So not a single dime has been spent on the $400,000 that you have taken down from the 10.3, correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you do have an expense going on.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
so
need to
you need to
do
correct yourself
our
on the
project.
response.
No, our project kickoff meeting hasn't taken place yet.
Your project what?
Kickoff meeting?
Kickoff meeting?
This
You mean
meeting.
shoveling, like shoveling the sand?
No. Our meeting is supposed to take place with our project officer and the consultant, along with Kodak Uladum or Ogumaro
Okay.
Uladum.
I'm not interested in when your meeting's gonna begin.
Mhm.
My question is, what is your expenditure ratio of your $10.3 million grant that has been issued since last year? You're talking 5-year grant period out, obviously to build a new facility.
Mhm.
It's gonna take some time, and that's the reason why EDA given you a 5-year project out for the expenditure of the 10.3 money. But out of the 10.3 money, you're taking down $400,000 as allowable under the grant.
Yes.
For the administration of the grant and the program itself for your construction. I don't understand the response of not a single expense that has been expended on the $400,000.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay, I would highly recommend you take a good look back on your grant and look at all the expenditures that you're doing right now maybe since the inception of the grant, and see if those expenditures that you have expended on and paid for under a different funding account, if they qualified as an expenditure under the existing 10.3 grant, and move those expenditures out into your 400,000 expenses. Because why? That is important to the federal government, the grantor, when they're looking at your performance of your grant, that you have expended $0 to date, when in actuality, based on this conversation that we're having today, that you are actually doing something administratively. And I would think that those expenses would qualify under your administrative costs of the $400,000, okay? Accounting wise, you can move those expenses over, but you need to do your job. You need to do whoever's doing the accounting book inside in the institution to see whether those expenses are qualified, just so that you have some sort of percentage of expenditure ratio for your grant performance, okay? All right. Now, you mentioned about a property, of course, the other property being offered by the governor is greater, 40,000 square meters. The other one in Coberview is 15,000, and you're going to write a letter to not accept the second offering. Where's that location?
Aspergito, the current Parks and Recs office.
Current Parks and Recs office. All right. Now, the 15,000 square meters in Coberview, do you have ownership to that?
Yes.
The deed is in your name?
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. Keep it. That's a good location.
It is.
Okay. I'm not too sure if Aspergito is wetland. Yeah. Thank you. Put the school in a place where you don't have to worry about any flooding, where the kids are safe and it's conducive to learning. Okay. So yeah, keep the Coberview location of 15,000 square meters. Additional square meters of land is not enticing at all. Not in the real estate market because it's a flood zone. In your program development, I know you're talking about NCCER. Do you have any plans for any kind of Job Corps program?
Yes, of course, for the apprenticeship expansion, we're working closely with Nmti, the State Apprenticeship Expansion Grant, and the ASC program from WIOA to enhance all of the apprenticeship programs that are being or potentially going to be carried out with all the industry partners.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So I hope you guys look into it, because many times, often, the Job Corps program is administered out of Hawaii, and that's federally funded.
Mm-hmm.
We do not get any money, but we do send our qualifiers to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's something that you could look into, perhaps maybe start talking to the federal government, and you have the opportunity to tap into those federal monies to create your own Job Corps center here in the Commonwealth, so that our children do not need to go and leave mom and dad or the family to be educated in Hawaii or to any other Job Corps center across the nation. So that's something, futuristically speaking, that is something that is, very, very good for the Commonwealth to have. And that also embraces Rhode and Indiana as well.
Can I just add something? So I just recently came across Good Job Challenge from EDA.
Mm-hmm.
It's another tuition opportunity. So it's a grant that we can apply for, and it applies to a technical school. So I'm going to be looking into that and hopefully getting assistance by getting a grant specialist on board.
Right, and you're dealing with a lot of the high-risk population students, for
Yes.
example, the Dow kids, and there's 36 that are waiting for their GED diploma. I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah.
In the Constitution, nobody should be left behind in terms of the right to education, whether it's higher education or secondary. In the workforce development world, we call trades school the other college, and it's the adult population that we're dealing with. And I agree with everything that was stated earlier about a lot of them have aged out of the public school system, age population requirement, and we need to address the issue. It's an urgent matter. We are in violation of the Constitution, the right to education, and we need to do something to address the needs of the 36 students that are waiting for the high school diploma, because the most basic equivalent documentation for employment is a high school diploma or a GED. The fact that the system is denying these kids or these adults to get their GED that they're very close to completing, is an absolute, it's not acceptable. We can drum up any excuses we have, but these families deserve to earn a living. They cannot go out there and get a job because not even a single diploma they can produce because the system failed them. When I'm talking about the system, I'm including the legislature, us, the entire government system, all of us in the education sector, all of us under the workforce umbrella. We have failed these 32 individuals. And we all need to own up to it and get these kids in the classroom so that they could get their GED diploma. And my last question to you are actually two. How much CW1 have you received?
250,000, but that was from fiscal year 2020, quarter four. We have
Fiscal
not,
year 2020, so you did not get a single dime for FY21,
no.
but you have been
Not yet.
requesting.
Yes.
Okay. And how much did you request for? $1.some million for FY21?
Yeah.
And you have not received a dime?
No.
Is there a reason why?
Unsure, there was, we've been requesting since March. Actually, the former request came from the chairman when I wasn't on board yet, and then we've been following up since then, but still no word.
Following up with who?
With the Department of Labor.
All right. Does labor recognize you as a training institution?
Yes.
I'm sure they do because they're part of the transition committee, correct?
Correct.
Exactly. I saw that, and I know they are. And that leads me to my last question on partnership with the NAP office, the WIOA office. Are you aware that every year the formula grant comes down from the U.S. Department of Labor? And as we speak, for program year 21 and FY22, the CNMI Department of Labor has received $1 million, to be exact, $537,732 for youth, adult, and dislocated worker programs. So when we talk about partnership, there's a lot of narrative, but I do not see any commitment in money. Where I'm leading you to is that a lot of your students will qualify under the WIOA grant.
Mm-hmm.
And these are formula monies. In my years of running the federal program under WIA, I have pumped more than $100,000 to Nmti to pay for the tuition of the students that are going to the school. There's no reason why that the WIOA money cannot be directed to Nmti to help pay for the tuition of the students that are going there while you do all your other management on all the other federal monies that you're getting and other local money that you're getting so that you can get yourself up and running. Thank you very much. I am in support of the institution. Workforce development is necessary in our Commonwealth. It is the livelihood of our people. If they don't get educated, if they don't get the right skills, they will never earn a living. And I'm talking about being an entrepreneur as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Mario, CEO. Thank you for coming over here in the active to enlighten us as to what's going on in India. I understand that you mentioned, Chairman, that the trust for Yanutin is gone. He mentioned he resigned.
Yes, he did.
So what is the status now on that vacancy? Have you followed?
Right now, we have a nomination committee that we're assembling, and the nomination committee will come up with names, and then we'll submit to the governor, and then it'll follow through the process.
All right. So is it anytime soon or?
It's in the process right now as far as getting the committee members together.
Okay. And the other thing that I know that mentioned by on the public comments on the agenda for today that in regards to Tinian Road, that would be better to bring it here and was mentioned about having a dormitory. As we speak, even NMC cannot afford to at this point for dormitory, and based on the law, it requires that the students should be on this institute should have be able to this training for the entire cinema. So I look forward that, because I've been mentioning this in the past, that, should collaborate with NMC or PSS so that we can, have a training in the animal opinion and road, rather than waiting for someone to come over. There's a lot of, there's challenges with the students coming over to participate in this institution by not having a transportation or a place to stay. So instead of waiting for, because funding is always an issue too. It's a noble idea to have a dormitory, but the problem is funding. And while we're waiting for that noble idea, we should start doing something for the other thing for that matter. So I hope, and I like your testimony today, that you are looking forward for to have that established in Tinanong, and I thank you for that. And in regards to bylaws, that it's allowed by the institution to have the bylaws. I'm very much concerned about. I'm not trying to stop the institution. I'm supporting the institution 100% since the start, because this is an institution that's providing, workforce to the businesses and even to the government. Even during it's not a corporation at that time. We've been receiving, from time to time, a brief statement from the original owner of this institution that back then that they're providing workforce to our business sectors and even government. And we all understand that probably by 2029, we're not allowed to be renewed in regards to workforce. Our economy is going to go down, and there will be no economic growth in the entire Commonwealth. That's why this is an institution that is very critical and very, important for our economic growth, because workforce is one of the main components of economic growth, and everybody understands that. And that's what we're lacking, is skilled workers in different areas. So I'm supporting this institution 100%. And it's also alarming when we hear that the institution is shut down after we confirm, a couple of trustees, and we're not expecting that. We're expecting that when we confirm, as I always mention in my statement, that if the folks and the members of the committee give the blessing, we expect, a good result, not for so much complaint. We cannot stop complaining, but hearing about shutting down, and we don't expect that. We expect good result, because as I always mentioned, that it is very critical and very important that we should start continue to educate those that did not choose to go to become a lawyer or become a dentist or whatever, but rather apprenticeship program training. So that's what I always mention, is that if there's a problem and that problem needs to be assisted by the legislature, so we're always open for discussion to come up and see how we can assist. But it's very sad to hear from the outside coming over to the legislature, seeking for assistance for the institution not to shut it down. So like I said, if there is a problem and the legislature need our assistance to resolve whatever that we can beyond our authority, our doors are always open for that discussion. So again, please do not hesitate to reach out to the legislature. And in regards to advisory committee, and it's in the law, section 12.117. Have you established an advisory committee, so that what are you offering at institutions not duplicate to those institutions that are mentioned in this law? If you met with the four non-voting committees, which is the Department of Labor, Secretary of Commerce, and Chairperson of Confiscation, Chairperson of Northern Manus Board of Regents, have you met to discuss so that there won't be any confusion as to what can be offered at NMTI and what cannot be?
Yeah, I just spoke to, I'm sending a formal letter to those folks, but I spoke to NMC chairperson. And he's getting reconfirmed. I don't know if he's gonna be the chair, but he's part of that committee. That's gonna be our advisory committee. And so that's our advisory committee. Also, we've got like an in-house, a group of, I guess, OGs, if you will, some original folks that have been with the school that internally are helping. If I could just do a go back, Senator Cruz, you want just on the shutdown? This was at the advice of the AG's office. And the reason was because we had zero budget. So they said we couldn't hire anybody at that time. So because we had zero budget, we couldn't at that particular time. And I would like to commend Congresswoman Sherwin Staffler, who's been very supportive, and she's come to every one of our meetings. And, you know, we've asked Chairman Staffler for help, and she's always said yes, and she's been great with us. So I definitely appreciate all her support for NMTI, outstanding. And, you know, just kind of a bellwether for us too. So I definitely appreciate that one, acknowledge that for all your help. So in all the legislatures, I know it's kind of everybody's got to get their hands around it, and that's now that we move forward, which has been great. But just for clarification, it wasn't that, you know, on our end we didn't do it. Seeking a clarification said, well, you have a zero budget, which means you can't hire anyone at that particular time. So that's what that was.
Thank you for that information, but like I said, do not stop moving forward.
Oh yeah, we agree. We agree.
For success.
Yeah.
And in regards to vacancy on the last confirmation that this committee or the Senate confirm to comply with the law by informing the one I just mentioned, that you inform the governor in writing.
Can you repeat the question?
The vacancy, the confirmation that we confirmed the last person that was from the Arano Road. That you did the committee inform the governor in writing.
Yes.
That there's a vacancy.
Yeah, that was.
There's a selection by the committee.
Yes, that was our trustee, Irene Hall. She, per the law, she was supposed to chair the committee. She did. She didn't have a voting position. So the committee did meet and they submitted. And I know there was some challenges with folks not wanting, during the transition period, it was kind of a hot potato. And a lot of people we did ask said they'd love to be involved just after things simmered down a little bit. They just felt they didn't want to be involved. They didn't want their name in the paper as being a problem, so they kind of wanted to steer away from it just because there was a lot of, you know, opinions going on, but it wasn't really factual.
I also want to make sure that everything that this trustee,
yes,
or this institution is doing is following the law.
Yes,
Public Law 20-92.
Yes, Senator.
Because if we fail to do this, it's in violation of this law.
Yes,
so it's null and void. I just mentioned that because I received during that time, or after confirmation, I received, and it's not our obligation. We have our trust in the board, the sitting board trust, that everything should be followed according to Public Law 20-92, and we expect that to be followed all the way unless it's reviewed or amended. The thing is that no bothers me. There's a letter. I received a letter, but it's not dated. I was wondering why it's not dated.
I can ask every
A letter that is informing the governor of the vacancy and nominating Miss Mendola. I just wanna understand why it's not dated.
I'll have to ask, get back to you on that.
Is,
but I can
is,
talk
is
to you.
Irene Hall, the trustee Irene Hall here?
She's in Cambodia.
I'm sorry, you mentioned that earlier, but I just wanna know why it's not there.
Sure. I can ask her.
It's a lot of
Maybe,
things behind my head, and I don't wanna mention it, but I just want, you cannot answer on behalf of her, maybe you can have her,
I'll be happy to get that information. I'll send her an email, and when she replies, I can forward it to the committee.
CEO, you mentioned about 43 that been on board prior to the pandemic, right? That's prior to the, not only 13 mentioned to continue.
Only 15
What
will
was
be
the reason
continuing.
why those the others did not? Was it
So, 13 of them we cannot get a hold of. And then the rest, there's no interest.
but how long was that? How long since they have been taking the course and they just
So they
decided
started,
to pull back? Is it almost there or just started before the pandemic?
it started in January before the pandemic, and then they got shut down in March. So some of them had modules where they were just halfway through. There are some courses that just have to start from the beginning all over again because of the time that it's been unoperational, I guess.
Thank you. And in regards to tuition and fees, have you established this institution established a tuition and fees for these students, and are this institution helping them to
Yes.
to avail to some funding assistance?
Yes, we've been able to meet with the CNMI scholarship and Shefa board. They're very helpful in trying to provide assistance for students that are going in, and our student services personnel have already established tuition and fees. They've been learning a lot too from Dr. Bert Johnston and working with our instructors when it comes down to, the tools and equipments that students would need in a classroom.
Thank you. I mentioned to the NMC Board of Region in regards to funding from the CDBG DOR grant that assisting those that lost their house or even loan funding money to build house. And I'm sure that within that category, even those that couldn't afford to pay apartment, they are also receiving those kind of assistance because of either loss of job or cut of hours. Maybe you can reach out and see whether also can be extended to students that couldn't even afford to pay if the tuition is established to pay tuition. Maybe federal grant that can assist them in that regards.
Okay, sounds good. Would you mind giving me a contact person?
Just to assist our students, because for me, even with those that go back, I think they should be try and hold them back and continue, because we need workforce here in the country. Let's have a outreach program that reaching out to them and trying to convince them to come back.
Yeah.
Unless it's no longer your plan to continue that. But and one more thing before I use to the other members, I know this is a very dangerous kind of work, which is like plumbing, carpentry, electrician, and so forth. Do you have any insurance liability that, for example, they got into an accident and then would the students, the faculty, staff, and the institution any
Yes.
sort of insurance to cover those?
For the students, we require them to at least get accidental insurance plans from Merlin. And I think right now Merlin is the only one that's offering it. So they can avail to insurance plans for school hours, and if not, they can do it for like the entire time that they're going to school at Nmti. And it's at a very cheap price. I think it's $9 for school hours and $15 to cover a certain amount of time. So
Is that per year?
yes.
So again, if try and reach out for those funding that I mentioned earlier, maybe
Mhm.
perhaps that can cover the insurance, student insurance for any accident that might occur during taking that
Yeah.
dangerous job. But again, I appreciate and I commend everyone in that institution to continue, teaching our resident students to fulfill what dreams they might choose. And at this time, Mr. Chairman, maybe I'll come back later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Senator Cruz. Chairman, there, you mentioned some legal opinions that the AG has provided in NTA. Can you provide the committee a copy or copies of those legal opinions? And I would like to ask the members if we can come back at 1:30 to continue. No objection. Chairman and CEO, can you come back at 1:30 today?
Absolutely, this is important.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will take a recess and then we will resume our meeting at 1:30. Thank you very much.